cracking, mi gente? This your boy D once again, ready to come by to share some love and a little bit of knowledge. Today, we're gonna start this series that I had told you guys I was gonna begin regarding the breakdown of Operation Devil Horns, the book, and the actually cases that took place within the operation, right? Now, please bear in mind there's still some cases and some factors pending. Some people still on the run, and due to that, there won't gonna be some details I'm gonna omit, and some facts that I won't either mention or I'm just gonna make them a little bit different. But I choose not to mention it because if I'm making different, people's gonna say that I'm lying. So, with that being said, today is marks the beginning of the series of 23 MS13 breakdown of the Operation Devil Horns. What happened, what transpired, the cases, who were the victims, who were the perpetrators, and why was it such a big case for the federal government to take down. Now, with that being said, man, don't forget to hit that like. Don't forget to share with your compas, comadres, compadres, where everybody around your area, your neighborhood. Don't forget to share it. And overall, what matters the most, please don't forget to leave that comment so we can get the conversation going, so we can get this thing cracking, man. So we can always bring you guys what we can. Fire content, banger after banger. With that being said, let's get into this topic because it's a long video. And I apologize beforehand, but the details are going to be excruciating. They're going to be painful. They're going to be a little bit explicit. So stay tuned. Don't forget, I always tell you guys the way it is. So let's get into the man. Operation Devil Horns. So the way it began was because, like I said in the video before, there were infiltrated people that were working for the government. One of them being a lady came out, the Dreamer, the homeboy Dreamer, was also an informant that had been working for the feds since 2005, which it kind of aligned with the situations that took place, and we start kind of thinking about him because there was kind of a couple situations that we got ourselves into that didn't align with his story, and also didn't align with why would they know, why would they think about this specific thing if we only told certain people. So there have been ifs about him from the very beginning, but we didn't have the black and white. See, our get down back then was not like the get down these youngsters that just got this federal case was. If we were suspicious of a lot of people, we try to set traps, we try to set fake holes, we try to set everything that we could to try to catch whoever was working for the feds. But never once that we took action without actual proofs, without actual paperwork, because we knew the consequence of that could be fatal. Now, I'm gonna break down the case that happened in the hood for the second indictment from Gordo's generation, the so-called mob leader of 20th Street, and why they decide to take out the homeboy Pee Wee, and when they did that, why it backfired on them once they got to the county where all the homeboys were at. They were okay when they were in San Francisco County because they felt like they had done something good. But when they got to Rita and a lot of the homeboys had got pulled down from the feds, oh, it wasn't pretty. And I will get into that. But like I said, we couldn't jump the gun, basically. That's not the way we get down. That's not how we were taught. So we actually stood on the sidelines. But we had suspicions. Now, with the rats already infiltrating the clique, the feds were getting a lot of information that was with the crimes that were transpiring, what was really going on, how it was going down. So we try to keep a small circle. And I say, when I say we, the usual suspect, like the people that were in charge of that clique at that time, we try to keep a circle really tight. So Slow Pain was running the clique, and he had assigned my homeboy Candil to be his right hand man along with me. So on a day-to-day basis, we had left Sleepy because he lived in the hood with his little crew to also keep a point, like the daily basis of activity from the morning all the way to where Slopane and myself with the other homie used to get there like around 5 or 6. That was Sleepy controlling that whole little shenanigan, which it became a little bit better because the communication was always there. What transpired in the morning, what transpired in the afternoon, what did this. And then when we got there at 4 or 5 o'clock after work or after school, we knew what to expect beforehand. So they could call me and be like, bro, this would transpire. I would relay that to Slow Pain. At the moment he would pick me up from home, I would give him the get down. We would situate ourselves and we relinquish. You could call, I was like a consigliere. I would use that word. I was like a council advisory because I always saw it from a lot of different points. So the only thing that benefited to me at that point was the way I was raised by a lot of my uncles. They used to be stoners. So I used to look at it from different sides, the situations, and then value that point of view. So with that being said, that's what I was. I was just a strictly torpedo. Plus, I had a point of view that I had an advantage with me because I had dealt with a lot of people before. I'm not trying to glorify myself and none of that. It's just a fact. So when this incident took place, and you guys read about this case, so we're gonna start breaking the cases down. One of the cases that brought the national news and actually brought the force of the Fed more eagerly and more faster to indict us, that put the cherry on the case of Armando Estrada. If you guys read the Devil Horn books, this was one of the cases that the people of San Francisco have not seen this caliber of case happen at broad daylight. Plus, they haven't seen the violence they haven't seen that such a violence that was increasing because of the movement that we were pushing. So it was true what the Fed said in a lot of the news reports and a lot of the books and the transcript. I proven to the fact that once we got under the homeboy Slow Pain leadership, the crime went up, the violence went up. And the reason why was because a lot of homeboys doubted Slow Pain. A lot of homeboys doubted the homeboy had the mentality and had the manpower to hold 20th Street as a whole, as a factor. Plus, there was a lot of homies doubting him, that him as a leader, the 20th Street could hold the test of times. They felt like it was going to break down, that a lot of homies was going to come out at the end. But so they didn't have that much faith because of his years. He was not old. He was barely 25. So 23, 24, 25. He was on his early mid-20s. And they figured the way he maneuvers is just way different to our style. So if you saw Slow Pain, you would think he was a northerner, white. He had long hair. He used to sag, baggy pants, baggy shirts, ponytail with colors. You used to wear Niner gear with Air Forces Ones. So you didn't expect to see a choloed out, bull-headed ass fool tatted all in the face with the shirt and the hanging from his shoulder with the Dickies and the Bane Davies or the 501s. You expected probably somebody like that. You didn't expected a light skinned, pretty faced dude with a little bit of with some swag on it, with some style on it, and a little bit of edible, you know. He was what we call caritas. Caritas means that he was liked by a lot of females. The females thought he was cute, so we call him caritas, like faceless, you know. So he was a carita, so he had the means to, you will always see him, and a lot of homies didn't get it because he always was like pulling up behind us, chopping it up, and he would get him. So they didn't thought that he was actually focusing on the growth of the neighborhood, when in fact he was actually doing exactly just that. He had come to terms and he had come to realize that the only way people respect other gangs and other people respect is if you're violent, if you're firm, and if you act fast. So we implemented a different code we were not gonna chase people behind buses. We were not jumping people in the buses where we used to chase the buses, unplug them, like, because it would create it. Now the police get involved. The bus wouldn't open the door. We have to break the door down. So we started pulling back from those childish youth mentality and implementing soldiers move, basically calculated things, thought about it, whereas. So that became a tragedy for us. The people didn't see coming. So when incidents were said, for instance, I was posted, then the Northerners came down, lit us up. Let's say they graced one or two of us. That same day, they were gonna have a response. We didn't want to wait. If we could do it the same hour, we were doing it the same hour. If not, we were holding back to the night. But the same day we were responding. We had a saying and a mantra that you touch one of us, we touch three of yours. So that mantra became implemented a lot of hardwire in our brains. And like I say, I'm not indulging, I'm not glorifying this fight. I'm stealing the facts. I'm saying the facts. So when you start seeing we're gonna do stupid robberies where we're gonna snatch a phone, snatch somebody's purse. No. If we were gonna commit something like a robbery wise, we were not gonna do it in the Mission District. We were gonna do it somewhere outside the Mission District, like the avenues, the rich white people neighborhoods, the suburbs, because we know that was money there. So if you were hurting your pockets, you want to do a robbery, you want to do a lick, go do it up somewhere else. Don't do it in a Mission because it was bringing the. You want to sell dope? Okay, you can sell dope in our area, but try to reach out furthermore, because we didn't want that heat from the police. If a norteño slide by, we could catch him out down 19, down 17, then smash him. We'll let him pass through. If we catch him on 21st, 22nd, smash him. But we try not to commit many crimes in the hood, like exactly at 20th Street in the block, because we were trying to not take the attention the police was giving us and place us somewhere else. And this where the conflict that almost kicked off another war when 19 came about. They felt like we were purposely jumping on things, doing shit on their block, getting their block high and getting away with it. So when the norteños would slide by, we didn't give this fool his eye. We'll just smash somebody out and they will get the homies hurt. And it happened 3 or 4 times where they came looking for us, but they saw the homies for 19 and then got hit. So it became anger to them. So they kept pressures, but the thing is they didn't know how to approach the situation. They were hot at that time when that incident happened. And there were also a little bit of beef and roses between us and 16, because there was an individual from 16 that didn't want to be in 16 anymore. He had come kick it with us, and he had got liking the way we received him, you know. And he had kicked it with us. He had stayed with us. So the one time the homies from 16 came and they were trying to DP him right in front of us. They literally slid through the park, 19 in park, and they saw that the homie was kicking with us. And one of them fools was like, "Hey, fool, come here, fool." And he was like, "What?" He's like, "Come here, fool. We gotta holler at you, fool." So when we saw the attitude of the homie from 16, it was like, "Hey, bro, like, he's kicking it with us, bro. Like, you... whatever your pedo is, fool, take that shit down to 16. You fools are not finna touch the homie in our hood, dog." They didn't like that response. Mind you, the homie P, I'm not gonna say his name just to preserve it. The homie P was a solid individual. He had done dirt with us. He had been around with us. He had suffered with us. He had enjoyed the laughter with us. I mean, old bro was solid. In our book, he was solid. The reason why we didn't jump him into the hood was because he was from 16. We know that if we took him from them and jumped him in a la brava, just not giving a full eye, it was gonna create a hostile environment with them. It was gonna create a beef that they're gonna feel we stole the hood, even though he was willing to do it. But we chose not to just go there yet. But we always told him, "Hey, bro, if you with us, you with us. If you walking with us and this fool's hands on you, it's gonna crack." So we let it be known before it got to there, bro. If this fool put hands on you, we taking off. And it did happen. Between 19 and San Carlos, one of the homies from 16 came and socked him. Bah! The homie K. The homie K come and socked him. And he was like to my right. And it was me, and then there was another homie. One we see him sock them, and the other fool didn't bang on him. We thought it was he had long hair at that time, the homie K. So we got off on him. Ping, ping, ping. And then that's when bro P stopped pulling me like, nah, fool, that's my homeboy. Fool. I was like, what the hell? I was ready to just go the extra mile, and the homie like, nah, fool, that's the homie. So that's what transpired, and that's where all these theories that we were taxing people, that we were doing this to the 20 streeters, came about in the news. That theory that when the incident with Armando Estrada happened was because we were trying to tax the paisas, the miqueros that were there. That's false. The narrative is false. And here goes why. So, the miqueros, the paisas, are a bunch of paisanos, Mexican descent individuals that don't gangbang. They used to sit right there in 20th Street and sell fake documents, so Social Security, ID, and all of that. That's what we call them miqueros. So, at first, these individuals, they haven't come there and were doing that. See, there were Cubanos in 20th Street that was buy the stolen property. We knew about them. We had a cool relationship. There was another Mexican crew there. They used to do the same thing, buy the stolen property. Now, when the miqueros came and trying to establish themselves there, and we start seeing them, hey, la mica, because before this group, a specific group, come there were other miqueros there that were firmes. Some of them were Mexican, some Salvadorian, Honduras. They was doing their thing, but they always gave us our respect. They never came out of us sideways. They never yelled at us. They never disrespected us by wearing brands, numbers, and colors that were disrespect to the homeboys. That were disrespect to the hood. They never did that. So we had agreed, look, you guys can do your thing here. You guys can sell all your stuff. You guys can buy all your shit you guys want. But what you guys cannot do here in 20 is sell dope. You guys cannot sell weed. You guys cannot sell crack. You guys cannot sell cocaine, heroin, crystal, whatever the hell you guys are selling. That here is a no-go. And the reason why is because we got our own D-boys. So if you guys can abide by these rules, you guys can stay, do your thing, get your money, firme, dale gas. So that group had agreed to never disrespect us by selling drugs, even if it was weed. So we were cool then. Then they got busted. And then another group came in there. And this group was full of chilangos, people from El DF, from DF, from Mexico City, the capital. And I don't say this out of despise because I don't like Mexicans, because I'm far from racist. But a lot of people, even their own Mexicans, will tell you, people from the DF, people from the DF, from Mexican City, from the capital, they are looked by other Mexicans as the lowest of the lowest, because there ain't shit. That's how my far. A lot of people from the DF steal from their own people. They rob their own people. They do grimy shit to their own people. If you go on the bus and they see a wallet hanging, whoop, they're thieves. They will steal your shit. So that was the mentality. So when they got there, the leader Patas, Armando Estrada Patas, he didn't tell us nothing. So we know who's there. Like, you're not gonna tell us, oh, we have many people. We know how many people's there, and we know who's there because we see them every day. So when we start seeing new individuals, we went to the group that will buy and sell stolen merchandise, and we asked them, like, hey, is this people your guys? They were like, nah, they're new miqueros. They're the ones from 24th. So in every mission, especially in 20, there was miqueros. In 24th by the border, there was miqueros. They had miqueros on 16th Street as well. So there was three kind of points, like the bar station in 16, the bar station in 24th, and then the middle in 20, they had miqueros. Because that was the populated area where a lot of people go. The mission, the whole mission up and down is always filled with people looking for something, right? So when we start seeing different individuals wearing big ass Red Sox jersey with a big ass 14 or a big ass 18 with red shorts, like big ass red shorts, big red hats, like big ass red hats, the Yankee hats with the N on it. We start looking at it like, whoa, these fools are like overdoing it. You guys can wear it, that's not what we're saying. But if you have a big ass 90 jersey with a big ass 18 and you post it like you game banging in our neighborhood, how it's gonna look? It's like the norteños are not gonna allow somebody that comes with a LA Dodgers 13 jersey and post up on their neighbor, start selling something. They're gonna get at him like, bro, like either the color or the number gotta go, but you can't have both of them. That's just how it works back then. So the first incident we had with them was similar to that. There was a big dude named Negro. That's also what they used to call him. Because they had nicknames within their own. You know, they had Chilango, Negro, Patas. They had a couple other dudes, individuals. They had nicknames within their own. So these fool Negros, he's standing right by Farmacia Remedio with a big ass jersey of the Niners with a big ass 14 on it. And to top it off, he got shorts, black shorts, that along the line got some big ass red lines on it, right? With a red hat on top of that, bright ass SF red hat. Not even black and red, just straight red, the whole hat. He's posted like this, like he's gangbanging, chilling. So we approach him and we were like, bro, what crew you from? What crew you part of? Are you from the seller and buyer or are you the new miquero? He's like, nah, we're from the new miqueros, fool. I'm like, where you guys came from? He's like, oh, some of us come from 24th and or 23. And since that fools here got arrested, we came and tried out here. We're not getting that much money over there. I'm like, are you guys individual sellers or are you guys on the group? So he's like, nah, we on the group. I'm like, who runs your group? So my homeboy start asking him who runs your group, and he instantly said Patas. I'm like, hey, fool, call Patas here. So he started whistling. He makes a hand sign to one of them, and then the other one from the corner, and then the next thing you know, it goes all the way to like the middle of the block where the Latino restaurant used to be at. And then here comes this little Oaxacan-looking ass fool, dark-skinned, chaparrito, short as hell, probably like 5'1", 4'11" with the most. Chubby, big ass little lard boy. It looked like lard, straight like lard. He looks like a straight bolita de cebo, like a straight fucking bowl of lard. So he's oompa loompa ass motherfucker. Put it clear. So he's coming walking down with two individuals, two big ass fools behind him, like he's the shit. He goes, and the moment he gets to, ¿Qué onda, güey? ¿Qué onda, güey? ¿Qué onda, güey? No mames, güey. ¿Qué onda, güey? ¿Qué onda, güey? You know how Chilangos, you guys can't understand how Chilangos talk. The DF people talk different. They use a lot of rude, bad words. Like, they are really outspoken as hell. So he comes to us and he's like, ¿Qué onda, güey? What's the problem? What's the problem here? What's up? What's up, fool? What's the problem here? So we like, first of all, slow the fuck down, my homeboy's telling. Second of all, look, this is who I am. This is my block. This is my neighborhood. This is my fucking territory. Second of all, third of all, homie, you never came and approached him if it was okay, if you guys could sell here or not. And he's like, oh, yo no le tengo que pedir permiso a nadie, ni madres, güey. So he's like, I don't have to ask permission to nobody for nothing. I don't give up, you know? So we're looking at this fool like it's four of us. We're all strapped. And it's like the 8 or 9 paisas that we have like cornered up in the... We don't give a fuck how many paisas are, fool. We finna let these fools have it. So my homeboy's still trying to dialogue with this fool until the point that this fool gets like really chingue su madre, la verga, yo no voy a estar diciendo nada, que aquí no, que blah, blah, blah. Once the chingue su madre came out, that's when I felt like, man, hold on, bro. So I pulled out and I clocked and I just let him see them holding it like close to me. And I was like, this fool, I dared this fool to say I know the chinga tu madre. Caso I'm to light this fucking little light bulb headed ass fool up. So he sees the movement I do and he comes down. He's like, look. I don't want no problem with you guys. Just tell me what agreement we can reach. It's cool, man. So we tell him, look, You guys can do whatever the fuck you guys want to do. You guys can sell your papers. You can do, but we have rules here, like we had with the other people. If you talk to the other people, like you say, you know the other crew, then ask them. We didn't. You guys were not allowed to sell dope. You guys not allowed to wear disrespectful paraphernalia here, like this fool's wearing. Second of all, now that you guys are a new crew, we'll put a tax on you guys. And the reason why we put a tax to them was to show them it was a play of power. Simple as that. It was a power play. We wanted to show them who owns the block now. But also, we has already seen that these fools were selling little weed. That they were selling that bummer ass fucking weed, that green ass fucking Mexican weed that gives you a headache. We have already seen them fools doing that. So when we asked him, he tried to lie to us. So that's why we taxed his stupid ass, because he tried to lie to us. So when he's trying to say like, no, we told that fool, if we pocket check this fool, we're gonna find weed on him. And he's like, nah. I'm like, hey, fool, empty your pockets. And when we empty his pockets, he had a bunch of 20, 30s, 50 little baggies. So I'm like, you see, you're lying. So because of that, you're going to pay a tax. So we asked him, how many of you fuckers are? And he was like, oh, I got like 25, 27 people. We're going to want $5 out of every one of you guys. We wasn't even major taxing him. We literally just wanted $5 for the 27 people he had there every week. That's it. Every week. Every Friday or Sunday, you guys choose the day. You guys gonna have to give us, collect that and give it to us. At first, he trying to like buck and say, no, Charles, nah, fuck that, too much money, like, la. We're like, fool, you make $150 to $200 for one fucking mica you sell. So don't tell me it's too mucho. Like, fuck that. So he was like, okay, we agree. So once that was dead on an agreement, we told him, but you guys cannot sell weed. That's a no-go. That's our spot. We're going to sell the dope here. He didn't like that part because he was trying to say that that's where most of his money was coming from. I'm like, look, bro, it doesn't matter. It's not for discussion. You guys are not selling. You guys can sell in 21st by the barber shop where you guys be at. You guys can sell it there. But here in 20, you guys are not selling it. It's a no-no. So he didn't really like that. We didn't much care if he liked it or not. It was our decision and it was done. So that kind of left a bad taste on their mouth, I believe, because they felt like we were sorting them, or they felt like they were bullying. So next thing you know, we started noticing new people. A week later, we started noticing a bunch of new people. And I was like, because every time we will go to the neighborhood, we always was, even if we were in Little Park, we all come down to 20, or we go up to 20 for Little Park. So a week later, we start seeing different people. And then the paisas that were buying and selling start complaining to us that these fools are trying to push us out. They're now buying and selling as well, la. I'm like, they were only supposed to do one thing only, sell micas. That's it. You guys got there. So we got at them again. Patas denied it. He denied that he was doing any of that. And we find out he was selling coke. So we told him, bro, if you don't knock this shit off, you're going to be in trouble. Well, that didn't happen. He didn't like it. He didn't knock it off. He didn't give a fuck. So that put us in a predicament to where do we act or we don't. So we went to church. We decided we were going to give these fools a little bit of rope and let them hang themselves, right? And that's exactly what happened. We gave these fools a little bit of rope and they hang themselves. That's what you do. Sometimes when you know that the person you're dealing with is greedy, it's oblivious to what you're going to do, thinks you're not a threat, they're going to do it. They're going to take the risk just to make a quick buck, and they're going to do it. 3 weeks go by. We saw more individuals coming through, being hella disrespectful. And when I start saying hella disrespectful, sometimes they will stop the little homies that were kicking them with us, that were not homeboys yet. They will stop the little homies, and they start harassing them fools like, hey, fool, cómprame mota, güey. Hey, güey, no seas culero, cómprame mota, no seas un mamón, güey, cómprame mota. Tengo la mejor mota, o quieres coca. Like, trying to sell weed or coke to little homies, like 15, 16 little homies. So that was something we didn't took lightly. And we're like, these fools are gonna hang themselves. Now they're selling coke. So one Saturday, because I remember clearly, it was a Saturday afternoon, we decided we finna, after the church, we finna deep to these fools. We're gonna go, all of us, and we're gonna go and try. So we make church mandatory that day. We get off church, and it's about 40 to 50 of us. It's about 40 or 50 of us. Most of us have something on us. Either a baseball bat, a knife, a strap, or anything. Most of us have something on us. So we walk down to the mission, 20th mission, on both sides. And then when we get to the light, cross towards Ritmo Latino, because that's where they used to kick it at, and Ramón Hacia Remedio, and the other side, across the street from each other. We split up and half went this way and half went this way, and counted the fools right in the middle and pulled them up. And we're like, you know what, fool? We pulled our patas, we grabbed patas, and we pushed them inside one of their Indian spots. The Indians were hella cool right there with us, because we had always given a little bit of protection, because there was a lot of people that used to come and yank their clothes out of the hangers they had in the streets, steal for them, or they will go in there, like put their shirt on, walk out. And a lot of them were either white boys that were doped up, black dudes that were doped up, or black dudes that wanted to just become assholes, or even raza that would just want to be dickheads, went in there, grab the shirt, try it on, and walk out and not pay him. So we had already did some dealings with them regarding that. So they were cool. So we grabbed this fool up and we pushed him inside. The Indian goes, hey, please don't hurt him. We ain't gonna hurt him. We're just gonna talk to him. So we took him straight to the dressers, to where you can try your clothes on. And we stuffed him in there, and we were like, hey, fool, you think we're a joke, homie? ¿Qué pedo, no? You think we're playing, fool? You think we're a bunch of fucking weenies, or what's up, fool? So we let it have it. He said that he was gonna get rid of his people. We allow him to keep only 25. That was it. If we see any more new heads or anybody else, we're gonna shut your shit down. But first, we're gonna take all your money. So he's like, no se pase, mi chavo, todos somos raza, don't be like that, we're raza. He tried to play the raza card, nah, fuck all of that. We gave you a chance and that's it. Well, that's what the hostility from them towards us come about, for those incidents. And the incident that took place, that kicked off that war, a month later, there was this same dude negro. He was posted up around the corner with some big ass Jordan shorts that were all red with a big ass 14, one right here and the 4 right here, black. Then he had a red hat on it. So when we pulled up to that phone, we told him to take that shit off. He basically told us to go fuck ourselves. He basically told the homeboys to go fuck ourselves. And when I say we, I don't mean me specifically. I say we as a homeboy, as a hood, as a camaraderie, basically, as all of us. So once he told the homeboys to go fuck yourself, the homeboys came to us and were like, this fool's over there being disrespectful. So we went over there, we grabbed that fool up and we put him in the alley and we lumped him up. So we lumped him up. We didn't do nothing else. We just lumped his ass up right there in cap. In 20 in cap. We lumped them up and then we dropped them back off at the corner and told that fool, Patas got any issue, tell us to holler at us. Patas doesn't call us, that fool's not there no more. And a week later, we were coming back from the hood, myself, a couple other homeboys, and we posted up in the corner. And by Farmacia Remedio, where there used to be a lot of them, we left 2 younger homies that were not from the hood yet. So we left them there. And I crossed with my homeboy Sparky, Mommy, and a couple other homeboys. So we chilling, we chopping it up. Me and Mommy were exchanging SD cards. Because he was trying to basically download. He was giving me his brand new SD card. And I was giving him my SD card with a bunch of music. Because back then, that's what we used to like. We used to bump music. But we didn't have no Pandora. We didn't have no Spotify, none of that. So you used to have to go home, put the SD drive on the computer or something, download a bunch of music, Back then they had a website that was freemusic.com or freesongs.com, something like that. You used to type it in, download all the music, and then you will have it bumping. So I used to tell him, "Fool, just give me a new car. I will switch it up, and then whenever you want music, make me a list, and I will go and put it on your car." So that's what we were doing. When out of the corner of my eyes, I started seeing like a little movement, like a little hand gesture, like this, right? Then Sparky goes, "Hey, fool, you see what these fools are doing? What the fuck is going on over there?" So we see the little homies talking with their hands, and we see a miquero taller than them, like hover over them, like manhandling these fools. We're like, "What the fuck?" So we cross the street. We instantly get there. We're like, "What's up, homie? What's your pedo? What's up?" And the homitos go, "Oh, this fool's trying to sell los micas. We told her to keep on moving. That we from the hood." And this fool says, "Chales, I don't care. What's up with the micas? I'm trying to sell you some micas. Don't be culero." So we're like, "Hey, fool, you understand what the homie's telling you, fool?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Bro, when the homie tell you he's from the hood, dog, you're supposed to walk away, leave the fool alone. Don't try to sell him some shit. You don't know if this fool is hot or not, and the police see you trying to sell him something. You guys are both gonna get pulled over, but you gonna go home. He won't go home, fool." So we have already established that when you see the homeboys, leave the homeboys alone. This fool didn't want to do it, so he started whistling. And then you see like 4 or 5 PAISAS come down from 21st, and then like all the four coming from across, and we're like, "You whistling to this fool for what?" So he socked my little homie, right? Almost dropped him. The moment that happens, we start taking off. Boom. Mind you, it's like 4 or 5 of us. It's like 10, 15